Hello, hello, and welcome to this edition of the Law Firm Blueprint. I'm one of your hosts, Jay Ruane, and with me, as always, is my man, Seth Price. Seth, at the home office today. How are you doing this week?
Doing well. We got a little snow. It's, you feel the holiday time coming on. Tale of two cities. PI team, spinning nicely and hitting into your numbers. And, as we talked about in the last episode, trying to make sure we tighten the belts as the fee-for-service stuff gets a little tighter than I'd like it to be. In the fee-for-service world, that 20 to 25% margin is one that if you take your eye off the ball, it can disappear quickly.
Yeah, and the margin on the fee-for-service stuff is really what's the driver. It's funny, I was just talking to one of my members of my criminal mastermind about goal setting, and I think, for us, the conversation really went from they wanted to set numbers as their goals, and I tried to talk them out of it, saying numbers are great, but say you want to get to 5 million or 10 million, what does that look like for you as a lifestyle and middle management, and are you going to be able to maintain your profit margins? And they're like, well, we're at a 60% profit margin now, so getting to 5 million would be great. I'm like, you won't be at 60% profit margin at 5 million, and you won't be half that at 10 million. It's ridiculous. I mean, not if they want the lifestyle that they also want. It's 6-7. It's one or the other, as kids say.
I don't know what it means, but that's fine.
I don't know what it means. I just say it.
Exactly. You throw it out there just because the ratings would be higher.
Maybe some algorithm will pick up 6-7 and it'll.
Your old girl demographic and below will love you for it.
I purposely am now just like from this summer, if you remember Skibbity Toilet, Skibbity, like I will just randomly throw that into conversations when I'm on carpool just to get the 15-year-old girls that are all getting driven to high school. Just they're making fun of me as being the old man.
Right, and you also have to hit it right because just like everything else, after it's crested,
yes.
If you're a Simpsons fan, the I didn't do it kid. When the 15 minutes is over, right. It's over.
It is over. But speaking of things being over, I want to talk to you about something, and I think it'll resonate with some of our members of our audience. May not, but it's my time for some therapy. And I was thinking about this, and we have worked very hard in our firm to hire people with the personality that we like, that fits in. We're a little odd in our office. It's kind of funny. One of my pod leaders said, we're all a little strange, but we all work well together. And I think that's true. We don't fit in elsewhere, but we fit in together. And so the culture that we've created is intentional, and I think it's supportive, and this is a good place to work. But running into an issue with a popular employee across the board, so not just in their pod, but popular with multiple members of the firm, multiple people in the firm, who is underperforming. And I wonder how other people deal with terminating somebody who's not performing up to standard, not living the model, the mission, the statement that you have as a firm, but is otherwise very, very popular. And what you can say, we probably need to get a HR person or a lawyer in here to give us advice, because you don't want to remove somebody from your firm who's otherwise doing well. But if they're not doing well, do you let them go and then explain to the people why you let them go? Because at that point, the shock of them being let go is already in them, and then it's all an excuse. It's all that's why they did it, but they let go of our friend, that type of thing. So it can really upset the apple cart if you are getting rid of an otherwise high, well-regarded member of the firm. How have you dealt with that, or if you've dealt with that?
Over the years, there have been many different iterations, and each one is unique, and but the issue is real. And if you haven't dealt with it yet, you certainly will if you're building and growing a law firm. I think that the one thing I do know is that person gets an extra mulligan. That if there is that much positivity towards culture, that's not to be overlooked. And so there's a difference between lack of productivity, where you could buy yourself some time, if somebody's 60 cents on the dollar, and you're like, look, I'm trying to be more efficient, which I know is not your general game. But if it's a lack of productivity, there are times when you sort of kick the can for a little bit because you don't want to upset the apple cart versus something that's really toxic or problematic, where there are times where something's popular, yet there are problems underneath the surface. And I think that first, let's unpack that. I mean, is there a substantive issue, or is it just not ideal?
I think, in the situation where I'm envisioning, it could be anywhere, but it's not a question of toxicity. It's not a question of interpersonal conflict. It's not giving us the productivity that we think that the productivity should be.
And how many cents on the dollar are you getting?
60, 65.
Right. So, look, we don't like that, but I think that is when you look at it, let's look at it from a different perspective. Person's a $60,000 over under employee.
Yeah. Okay. Under in this situation,
but use 50 is rounder numbers.
Rounder number.
So what we're dealing with is, if it's a 65 cents, we're talking about a $17,000 a year productivity issue.
Right.
And I'm not saying you like that, but I would say that if there is positive esprit de corps in a firm, and you can somehow get them up to 80, 15 cents on the dollar, 20 cents on the dollar, there are times when you do that, when you're not just like, hey, I mean, you talk about how you leave money on the table on a prior episode with a in-person admin in every office. Right. Admittedly, you could do that for less, but you like some of the benefit there. I think that, as a guy with a scaled firm, that it's rare that there is somebody who is that glue. And if
I wouldn't necessarily call them the glue, but just very popular. A lot of people like that.
Again, you may say, hey, it's popular, but I don't want to pay $1,500 a month for popular. Versus, I'm just sort of counterbalancing, is there a scenario where you're like, hey, yeah, underperforming, but we can get them up? They're different things. Very often we're talking in euphemisms, and we're also talking about this publicly.
Right.
And there are things where there's more of a negative than you want to get into here, or it's, you don't want other people who see that and want to emulate it. That's the other issue.
Well, yeah, I'm not worried about that necessarily. What has come back to me from leadership is, hey, if we excise this person, we can get 2 remote people, one to do the job and one to do another job, and it's much more cost effective. And
it's more than, but it has to be more than cost. It can get, if it's holding back the mission, so to speak, meaning that otherwise is it a want or is it a need? And I say that like we talk about these all the time, right? With a lot of different elements of life, and business life in particular. So when we go back to that, so we're talking about this person, is there within their immediate team, is there an understanding that this person is not performing up to par?
Well, the supervisor is the one who came to us.
No, the rest of the team that's, that they're working with, they're popular with.
Yes.
Right. And that's where I channel my inner Andrew Finkelstein, who has had conversations where there were people who were underperforming who were family members of people within his firm. And those people understood that if that's not, if they're not doing it, that it doesn't work. And those weren't just popular people. That was blood. So I think it also, to a certain extent, comes down to if the core team gets it, and it's not a surprise, because there are very often issues that you and your management see, but the team doesn't.
Right.
But if you're pulling down the team, and are they picking up slack for her, for example? That stuff, despite the popularity, doesn't carry as much weight as when the person is siloed, and especially people in other departments. That's when you go to the jump that you're jumping to, which is, okay, do I call a team meeting the next morning to explain? We've been there.
Right.
Because I remember early BluShark when you didn't have as much ability to hire. At this point, you have a brand within the law firm. You can hire at a step above than when you started. I know when we started BluShark, we took who we could get, and we had some pretty rough people. And, we had some people doing some pretty awful things behind the scenes that weren't necessarily part of productivity, but with substance abuse or with other crazy things that are going on. We talked about on the show, people holding 2 jobs, one guy passing out Adderall at the office, another, all sorts of stuff over the years that I've had to deal with. I think that if the core team that they work with sees the underperforming, that goes a long way. Where at some point you're going to be like, we're making the call, we're paying the severance, we're going to make this person as soft a landing as possible. Hopefully, it's not a walk them out the door type of thing, but that's the ideal. Is you counsel somebody out, right? That's the ideal. But in today's market, that's a much harder thing to do.
Do you pay a severance in that situation? I mean, if they're underperforming.
Oh, absolutely. That's what severance is for, right? I mean, think about it. We just had somebody, who was, I can't say was super popular, but somebody who was intellectually, and I say that with a lowercase I, did not have, there's a certain amount you can put systems in place for, but a certain number in the job they were in a number of one-off tasks, and the sort of common sense level was not there. And when that happens, to me, that's because think about it. They're not a bad person. They're popular. They're hitting your culture. This is where we went over the board, where somebody might be entitled to a couple weeks, through many more weeks of severance at them, because it's frankly not their fault. Meaning, if the answer is, the question is, if it's correctable, have you taken that full step? Going back to you.
We're in the process now of trying to get their numbers to where they should be.
Right. But let's say you tried for a while, it's just that, because there's sometimes when people just aren't quick. It's not their DNA, right? It's not going to happen. That's exactly what severance is for, in my opinion, where you're like, hey, one would be, I'm just downsizing. It has nothing to do with you. It's like, it's use the DNA. It's not
no, because we need somebody in this role.
No, right. You're saying it's not you, it's me, but it really is them. But to me, that's exactly where you pay the severance, because they do have a good relationship. You don't want to burn them. You get a non-disclosure, and look, me personally, I've gone off book for much of my career, in that I have often, my attitude is I don't want to burn a bridge any way I can. So there's something like that where you like the person. My attitude is, I would personally turn somebody into a contractor, probably shouldn't say this out loud, with no pay, that is allowed to keep a job to get a job. What I don't want is somebody to explain why they lost their last job. HR book doesn't let you do that. As you get bigger, you can't do that. But to me, that's everything. Like, if you can let somebody, it's like a relationship. If you break up with somebody and they find a new relationship, you're no longer the Antichrist.
Right.
But as long as until that happens, and in this market, Christmas time, that's another factor you have. You're almost past the point where you can do it this year. Realistically, you're gonna have to wait till next year. But to me, that's exactly because. And we've talked about the pieces. If you are going to let somebody go, the whole point I want somebody to know, if it comes time for us not to work together, that they are going to be given as soft a landing as possible. So that if somebody's decided when they're going to give notice, that they're giving us as much notice as possible. I've had a streak of stuff recently with almost no notice.
Well, and that brings me to the next. So last week I posted up on LinkedIn, how much time should an attorney give their firm if they are moving to a lateral position? They're not hanging a shingle. And it was really interesting. The poll results, I put up a couple different options, and I got 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or more that people can choose from.
Oh.
What was fascinating.
What do you think my answer is going to be? Where am I? Well, no, it depends. But meaning, I see 3 weeks as the over-under.
Okay. 50-50 split, basically, 2 weeks and 4 weeks.
That's why we go 3 weeks. Meaning, what I say is 2 weeks is not enough, and 4 weeks is if there's extraordinary circumstance, long tenure, complicated cases, etc. But it is, to me, it's a great question, and I think that your poll shows that there's not a magic answer. Yes, it depends. I love that. But to me, I have seen that 3 week. You go too long, it could be, it's not fair to the new employer. I've seen that, and I've also turned people down. I had somebody who wanted to give, I forget what number of weeks, or some crazy number of weeks to the new employer, 2 months, 3 months, something like that. And I'm just like, game out. No.
Right.
Well, as opposed to there's a trial. We've had said if there's a trial.
Well, if there's a trial, as lawyers, we have to understand.
And then it's whatever is needed, right? Like we did one that was like a 12-week wait, but it was legit. There was a trial. They committed to it. We didn't want to F with it. But on anything outside of that, to me, if somebody, it goes both ways. If somebody comes to you and wants to give 5 weeks notice to somebody, that's pretty tough. Even a prosecutor's office. To me, 4 weeks is generally a good amount of time at the far end. 2 weeks, really is not, it's generally not enough, but it comes down to, we literally talked about this last time, I believe, which is if you're going to expect or wish that, you damn well better offer it on the other side to make it fair. And if the moment you're known for not doing that, to me, that's part of the reason I always want to make sure, because I've held my nose a number of times where I'm like, this person's an SOB or whatever, but here's your severance, because I want people to know that if they're holding their nose about us for whatever reason, that they're going to try to reciprocate that back, at least the offer.
So one of my friends was recently let go from a big bank, and they get 6 weeks for every year that they've been with the company.
Oh, wow.
So he's getting with a max of a year. So he's getting a year of his salary because he's been with them for 15 years.
Downsizing, I assume.
And they're downsizing. They're combining departments, and he was on the short side of the people who was in the leadership. So he doesn't have a leadership position, so he's off on his own. So what do you think in a small firm, in a small solo type firm, what do you think a reasonable severance is? I mean, I mean that's what unemployment is for, is my opinion.
No, I think it's one step better than that. I think that I think it mirrors the terminate. I think it should mirror what you expect back, with more for longer service. You get somebody with you for longer periods of time. Like 2 to 4 is the delta that we deal with most of the time. Again, there are exceptions for everything in the first week type of stuff, that nonsense.
Right.
That same 2 to 4 weeks, ideal, but look, we've done 6, 8, 12 weeks as needed in the right situation based on how do you do right by somebody. Easier advice to give than to take, because often you're in the midst of
turmoil.
Well, turmoil or angst, or somebody could have cost you a lot of money. Like,
right.
You're doing this under productivity, but there are times when people, have continuously screwed stuff up despite coaching, despite processes. In those cases, you're like, goodbye. But I listen to my HR people. Not that I can't believe I have HR people, but we do, and try to follow their lead as far as what's there. And at this point, as the team is gelled together, it generally comports within reason. But, again, if you're not paying, this is to the audience, and not just to yourself, but if you're not paying severance and people know that, why should they give notice?
Right. I mean, I think, last year we had somebody leave. We were moving the position into the office. They needed a remote job. And we said, look, it needs to be in an office job. And I think we gave 6 weeks,
Right. There was nothing wrong with the person. It was just a change in your needs.
It was a change in our needs.
The right thing to do. And I said that we talked about this, I think, in a prior show, a lot of sort of flashbacks because these things tie together. But when we're talking to these law students, it's like, I've had this talk with a number of people. I had to let somebody go from a position, and they were upset. And I picked up the phone. This was a guy who had been with us for a period of time and had just started to do things inappropriate towards female staffers, not like majorly, just creepy, on phone, nothing in person or anything like that. And, I after warnings and this and that, and he was upset. And I was like, look, when I said to him, look, we need, your work's amazing. We love your work, and I need your work done. And I have to replace you with somebody else, right? Which means I have to take the time of hiring them, maybe a recruiter, train them up, staff them. If you're being let go, I beg of you to look internally, because the reason you're being let go, I'm losing money by letting you go, and I have to do it anyway. Hopefully, you can gain from that. And just like I was talking to those law students, like, we need people to stay with us, to work, to build the businesses we have, to serve our clients, to be able to create the firm and the brand and the ethos that you have. So if somebody is being let go, it is against our economic best interest to do that. It's not for shits and giggles. And so I very often, and some people take it decently, some people think about it, many people just yell at you and then want to, destroy you. But the point is that if somebody is in a position where you're a rational player, like I've worked for people that are not rational players, they just they get some sort of something off by letting people get fired. For me, every time somebody is fired, that is a major economic loss for the firm. We have to start from scratch, etc. And that I would hope that in the limited times that that's happened, that somebody can find the positive in it, which is, if these guys are taking an economic loss, is there something I can do so that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest part of what we do really is managing the different people involved and getting everything to a place where our businesses can function, because there are so many moving parts. At least in a factory setting, you could take out this spring and this turntable and put them back in, and then it starts up again. But with us, you invest 2 or 3 years into getting a person trained up in a role, and then they still underperform, and you're thinking,
Right.
wow, how much is the opportunity cost that I've lost, and all of those things, and how much will it take to get a new person in to get them trained up? Is it worth functioning at 60% capacity because of the other intangibles?
An 8-figure firm, is an extra $1,500 a month to be the esprit de corps and the glue worth it? I mean, that's, again,
Yeah.
you can't spend your money for you, but know that there are times where and I've certainly given 1, 2, 3 mulligans to try to get that popular person reincorporated. Which, look, I was that guy. I was a terrible associate.
Did they work out?
I think eventually it probably found their way out, but on peaceful terms rather than non-peaceful terms. Again, look, we do a whole show on moving person from one seat to another when they're not working in one seat.
Move the turd.
Statistically, what percentage is that? Very, very low. Do we still do it? Yeah, we still do it. You just talked about it the other day.
Yep.
So, there are things that we are going to do that don't get seen, that when somebody even watches this podcast, say, oh, how can you look at it? It's not personal, whatever. It's like the stuff that you've done behind the scenes to try to make things work against your economic best interest is significant. I just know that when there's that there, they've also bought some goodwill. If they're the ones who get everybody excited and rah-rah, and those people are 3% more productive because they love coming to work because of this person. The harder question is when when they're popular, but there's an underlying toxicity or a negativity or something harmful, the gossip piece, the drama piece. Yeah. That's the more complicated situation that, to me, the good and bad of some remote work is that we lost a lot of that. When I look back to the day before COVID, at BluShark, healthy business being grown. But when I look back at many of the things that were people not being included on the after work drinks, sort of snide comments, this and that, water cooler nonsense, all of that stuff disappeared with COVID. Now, is there less productivity there? Sure. But I'm just saying, one of the positives is we lost a lot of that. Here, when you have somebody that's that popular, to me, it's you get extra chances in that there are huge benefits, because Jay, sitting up here in the visionary seat, if there are people out there who are culture warriors, even though they're less productive, you really don't want to let those people go if there's any way to. If you can get them 85 cents on the dollar, you'll probably make peace with it.
Yeah. So listen, it's now 1 week to go until Christmas. We're in the middle of Hanukkah, and everyone's celebrating. A week after that, it's the new year. So we're running to the end of this season of the Law Firm Blueprint. I want to ask you, what does Seth have in mind for his, rock for 2026? What's the big theme? What's something that you want to do better with in 2026? Maybe it's your resolution, but something that you think is going to help move the needle for your firm next year that really didn't get the attention as much as it should have in years past, that you can say, you know what, we can now focus on this. I have where I'm going with it, but I'm curious what you're thinking.
I mean, my personal situation, I think in my own head is, on the EOS org chart, I sit in the visionary seat, both organizations, but look at the law firm. And I joined a networking group that I like very much. I love people, I love going out, I love talking to them. Right? Exactly. And I get some cases come in, there's no doubt. And the question is that the best use of my time? Should I be bringing in, my wish is I could bring in a high level consigliere at a C level that could take on certain responsibilities that allowed me to sort of think and move at a higher level. truly e-mything? I'm no longer a tactician, but I'm still in the manager role more than in an ideal world. So for me personally, I know a lot of our audience is not thinking the same way. Everybody should try to elevate themselves. I think for me, it's what is my normal day to day, week to week, month to month, and try to push myself into, hey, maybe I'm that evangelist that's going out there and figuring out what the AI integrations are at a macro level and bringing those in. What can I do short of being on the phone with our recruiter saying, hey, we need to do things this way rather than other way. It can drive you crazy if things aren't, if a department isn't moving as fast as you want to be there to help them. But there's a point where I, for myself, would love to see myself move up to a more strategic, less managerial.
And what about the firm? Is there something that you think your firm can really sort of focus on and do better?
I think the family law division is ripe for expansion. We have the marketing down. We have some core rock stars, and that if we can find the right talent, which is not nothing, as we both know, that we have real potential to go from a 5-person practice to a 15-lawyer practice over the next 18 months. Meaning, we know
that's a huge scale.
I understand it's possible. Let's say we're not going to do that. So we're going to find the talent I want in that thing, but there is a path. Just add talent, as opposed to I could have all the talent I want in PI. I need to get the cases in there. Right. So there, I want to squeeze as much juice out of the orange as I can. Here, I'm out marketing my ability to find talent, somewhat the criminal side as well, as we talked about those things. And so my answer is, if mission critical is labor, making sure that I figure out, and sometimes going outside the box, what am I going to do that makes that desirous to get that talent inbound? And again, you go with this, but the piece that we have now struggled with at the other end, as we want to fill seats, is, again, if my avatar, we've talked about many times, 3 to 8 years, and I know Jay has been trying to get people right out of school, and we're actually following the Jay theorem there. Am I hitting my head against a brick wall, or do I just have to realize that the journeyman 25 years out, whether it be solo, government pivoting in, am I buying a program where every 2 years people, if I'm lucky, 18 months to 2 years, people will circle? And am I putting myself on if I want to scale and grow over time and take a step out, do you need to create the training ground with young attorneys? Because is the journeyman model one that gets tired quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's really sort of interesting as we go to scale and grow our firms. I know for me, we have spent a lot of time and attention in digital marketing. Obviously, it's near and dear to your heart, but I think there's an opportunity really to focus on analog marketing, just making connections with people. And so I've taken...
So I'm literally saying the opposite, which is I'm done with people, which is right. And just saying, look, I get it. It works. And look, this is not advice. If I was a solo, I might be doubling down on Jay's piece. But to me, if a new office can bring you 12 new cases a month, all the running around the courthouse is likely not to get you that.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so the question is, what is the better, to answer the original question, what is the best use of your time? And I've had a few moments recently where I feel that the old school, the networking with purpose, what room are you in? Who can do you some good in a place that you can share back? This shouldn't be a one-way street, but if you're surrounding yourself with real estate agents and investment advisors, while they may be connected people,
they ain't helping me with people. I need drug dealers.
Well, right, or DUI people, or what have you. And so, I think it's being more purposeful about how you're doing it. It's not just Jay's advice, which is get out there. Great. You want to get out there more. You like it. It gets you some energy.
I think you need to be intentional about it, and you need to really determine the ROI.
And if you reflect, who has anybody in your greater circle referred more than one case to you in the last 2 years? And then focusing on who those people are, and doubling down and saying, what's that
Well,
avatar?
and that's exactly what we're doing. We over the years I've done a lot of me paying attention to where the referrals are coming from and sending referral gifts. I tend to be on the generous side and sending note cards and that type of thing. And what we're doing is we're actually going to place somebody in that role to pay attention to it, make sure that stuff gets out the door, make sure we're paying attention to those human interactions, setting up the lunches, the calls, even, that type of thing, because I'm getting distracted by things like AI and other stuff that I want to do. So I need somebody to basically hold me on a leash and make sure that things get done. And my lawyer's on a leash to make sure that they're because I was big on every time we saw somebody have a good win at the courthouse, we would send them a bottle of wine or a bottle of olive oil, that type of thing. And boy, I still get people mentioning that, oh, you're the only person who remembered I won that case, and I love that bottle of wine. So I'm trying to get back to those things. I want to reinvest in the things that I know have worked for me in the past, but because it's not the new shiny thing, I tend to forget about it because I like a meth addicted squirrel, I jump around all over the place. I need to, if it works, I should be hitting it. That's my philosophy. So, what do you got lined up for the new year? Anything?
We got to head to Costa Rica with the family.
Oh, fantastic!
Come back, and one thing that we did, it might be of interest to the audience. We're trying something new. Rather than the end of year holiday party, departments are doing their own whatevers, and we're doing as a firm a January summit with a dinner that night.
Oh, very nice.
And just mixing it up.
Are you going to bring in like a speaker for that summit, or is
a couple speakers, some breakout sessions, some top level culture / customer service, and some granular sales and substance for the different departments?
I love that. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, we were supposed to do a lunch this week, and all of my lawyers wound up scheduling themselves in court. So that got pushed, and we'll do something in January. But it is what it is. Sometimes people get arrested at the last minute. You really can't. You can't predict when people are going to get arrested. That's the nature of a criminal defense lawyer in our firm. But it's good. But folks, that's going to do it for us this week on the Law Firm Blueprint. Thank you for joining us. Of course, you can take us on the go anywhere you want to go by subscribing to our podcast, which you can find on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on YouTube. Basically, anywhere you get your podcast, you will find us, and you can catch us live every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, live on LinkedIn, and most importantly, live in our Facebook group, The Law Firm Blueprint. Please be sure to join our group and follow us and give us a 5-star review everywhere you see us online. But that's going to do it for me. Doing it for you?
Do it for me. I'm going to throw something out, even though you've concluded we got to get out. Just made me think. If you've season tickets to a team, like the Caps, they do a day once a year, usually on a weekday night, could be on a weekend, whatever it is, where you go meet the players.
Yep.
And presumably this is in their contracts, right? They don't do this out of the goodness of their heart. Every contract has this. In hindsight, kick this to the next show, would we have been better off if we had planned for not just your management team, but for the entire team to have a one-day planning on a Saturday, let's say in January, where we take everybody, and it's known when you're hired, you sign on for this, that you put something like that is completely outside of the office, because it's criminal. It's very hard to do it during the week. Would that have been a smart move when we started the firm?
So as people join the firm, they know that this is a commitment that they're making.
We talk about this. We do a day. We're going to have a great meal. We sit there outside the office. It's going to be one Saturday, one Saturday morning, one Saturday afternoon per year that we're going to ask. You can be paid. It's not like it should be paid, but where you're outside of the confines of it. I feel like, just kick the can on this till next week. But
could you do? I'm loving the idea of it. Could you do it now if you haven't given people and say, hey, look, you're going to get comp time for it. So you work on a Saturday. We're going to give you two days off that you can use.
Everything with scale becomes more complicated and resented, and it's not the way it used to be. This and that. But the idea, we're doing this one-day summit. We had to wait for the PI department not to do it in December when they're closing out their year. We're basically doing it on a Friday. So maybe that's the answer. But, the idea is I think there's something powerful when it's outside of the week. At the same time, it's against family time. But if it was your thing, how cool would that be?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're already planning. My 25th anniversary of my firm is this year on September 1st, 2026. I'll be 25 years.
And we have to pick a 20th date. So if anybody has an idea, meaning we started with a slow roll, and so we can do 20th at any point we so choose. We haven't picked the exact time.
I'm just going with my LLC date. And the day my lease start when I moved in to my space. That's how I did it.
We started without an LLC, then we got an LLC that was the law office David Benowitz, then we eventually got Price Benowitz. So it was a slow roll depending on where we actually decide to put the pin.
Well, September 1st is a good day if you want to join.
It's a very good day.
Yeah. So we're going to do something on July 24th, which is my birthday. We're going to bring in a bunch of our pod leaders that work remotely from Argentina and from Mexico, et cetera. They're going to fly in. We're going to fly them all.
We save that. Let's do that next time because a lot of us have international labor. How do you do it? When do you do it? Who do you bring? Who do you not bring? Can't do it every year, presumably.
Can't do it every year, and you can't do everybody. So that's why we're doing it in a particular fashion. So I'll talk about that on the next show.
We had some last year. We get a maybe 30 cents on the dollar because of immigration issues getting people here.
Cool. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Happy New Year. We'll see you next time on the Law Firm Blueprint. Bye for now.